basically what that means is that when you have diabetes, the insulin is made by the pancreas, and it doesn't get into the cells in the body, and glucose is basically sugar. So the insulin helps glucose get into the cell. And this is because the immune system destroys the insulin in the body. So the immune system that's supposed to destroy bad cells destroys the good cells. And two major types of diabetes is type 1 and type 2. So this is just a picture of what happens in diabetes. It shows how the stomach changes into glucose enters the bloodstream. The pancreas makes little enough insulin. And then little enough insulin enters the bloodstream, and the glucose builds up in the bloodstream, which can get heart attack. So with the glucose level and diabetes, people with diabetes usually have to try to get it when waking up. They usually have to get it between 80 and 120. And before eating meals, they have to try to get it from between 80 to 120. And after eating meals, they try to get it from 160 or less. So diabetes in the U.S. About 25.8 million people of all ages that have diabetes in the U.S. So that's about 8.3% of the population in the United States. And within that 25.8 million, 18.8 million are diagnosed with diabetes, and 7 million aren't diagnosed. And the major cause of heart disease and stroke is diabetes in the U.S. And in the U.S., this is the 7th leading cause. So now that I've talked about diabetes, I'm going to talk to you about what juvenile diabetes is. And it's basically another word for type 1 diabetes, and it comes usually from people under the age of 20. And it accounts for 5 to 10% of people who have diabetes. So if people have diabetes, about 5 to 10% of the people that have diabetes have juvenile diabetes. And this is when the immune system destroys the beta cells in the pancreas. And that makes no insulin into the body. So this is just how you know the difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2. And it tells how in type 1 diabetes and juvenile diabetes, the body produces no insulin. It accounts for 5 to 10% of the people who are diagnosed with diabetes. And it usually occurs with people under the age of 20. While with type 2 diabetes, the cells usually don't respond directly to insulin. It accounts for 90 to 95% of the people who have diabetes. And it usually covers people over the age of 20. It's not always over the age of 20. People with type 2 diabetes can get juvenile diabetes, but most of the time it's people under the age of 20. So what causes diabetes? So the main cause is not yet known for doctors, but most doctors believe that it comes from a faulty gene. And some other risks of getting juvenile diabetes that they think you can get juvenile diabetes is from genetic family history, exposure to certain viruses, and low levels of vitamin D. Juvenile diabetes in the U.S. from 2002 to 2005, 15,600 youth were diagnosed with juvenile diabetes. And in the U.S., for youth younger than 10, non-Hispanic white youth had the highest risk rate of new cases. So the people that were Hispanic, white, who were not Hispanic or white, symptoms of juvenile diabetes includes increased thirst, increased hunger, dry mouth, and occasional vomiting, abdominal pain, frequent urination, frequent infections in the skin, urinary tract or vagina, and unexplained weight loss, even though you are eating and feel hungry, fatigue, it's a weak and tired feeling, blurred vision, and heavy labor breathing. And if there are also severe symptoms of juvenile diabetes, and they include shaking and confusion, rapid breathing, fruity smell to the breath, abdominal pain, and loss of consciousness. So if whoever has these severe symptoms, I advise to go to the hospital. And since you're probably wondering, since all those symptoms, because of all those symptoms, you're probably wondering if there's any cures or treatments for it. And there is, but there's no current cure for it today. The most common treatment for juvenile diabetes is to get insulin injected into the arm. And for people who have diabetes to live a healthy life, they can take a healthy diet, exercise, and have intensive insulin therapy.
How is having what do you mean by fruit smelling breath thing?
Those are just symptoms.
They're like, what do you mean by that?
It smells fruity.
Your PowerPoint that you said that 7 million people, well, or no, you said 7 million people don't know this. Well, they have it, but they haven't been diagnosed with it. How do they know they have it?
They get like checked up.
So, why that? Okay.
You said that type 1 and type 2 were the two major types, but are there any other types?
Well, there is gestational diabetes, but that's just when you have diabetes in pregnancy.
Okay, earlier in your presentation, you said 25.8 million people that live in the United States have diabetes, and then you said 18.8 have them, but 7 something more. So,
Wait, on this one? This one?
yeah.
Oh, that's just 8.3% of the population. This is the amount of people who have, about the amount of people who have diabetes in the U.S., and this is just the percentage.
Yeah, but like, in that 25.8 million, you said that 7 million.
It accounts for 8.3% of the population. Oh.
Mr. Orizano, is the 25.8 million the estimated number of people with
Yes,
diabetes?
estimated.
Okay, and 7 million are estimated to be not diagnosed?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking?
Thank you. Could you elaborate on some current research that's being done on juvenile diabetes?
Well, I didn't, on this article, it was just explaining what type 1 diabetes was. It wasn't like telling what what they were doing, like the process of what they were doing.
How can how can the 7 million people be included in the 25.8 million if they don't know that they have diabetes? They're not diagnosed.
No, there's this estimated. They were estimated that 7 million people don't have it.
I don't know.
So you're saying the 7 million have it, but they just don't know it?
Yes.
Okay.
How did they estimate that 7 million people don't know if they have it? They don't know if they
Taylor.
Alright, so basically what everybody's trying to say is, it says they have 18.8 million that like has diabetes and 7 million is not. The chart is saying that like 18.8 has it and they diagnosed with it, but the 7 million is the ones that don't know and they haven't been diagnosed yet,
Yes.
but it's still there. That's basically all it's saying.
Yes.
If the people themselves don't know that they have diabetes, then how can other people estimate? It's like, oh, we don't have diabetes, but maybe you do. It's like, there's no way to tell.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Let's put this to an end, okay? And maybe move on to more questions.
Yeah.
Researchers and scientists can estimate. It's a projection, okay? So when you look at populations who don't receive very good medical care, you can make estimations that those populations, a certain percentage, based on what you know about other populations, probably most likely have diabetes, okay? So this is a projection, not, obviously 18.8 are certainly diagnosed, 7 million in addition are projected to have, okay?
and to that end, you mentioned that the diagnoses are some of the leading causes for diabetes. Did you, in your research, did it cover obesity as a potential cause of diabetes?
Yeah, I've heard of it. Obesity is major in type 2. I've heard of it.
Okay.
But type 1 is just for the younger one, and it's just because they have no insulin inside of them.
So
to
type
get
1.
sugar to the cells.
So type 1 is not a result of obesity. Type 2 is.
Yes.